Hello. We have been discussing about the early Greek philosophers, Heraclitus. Today we continue with Heraclitus on the topic of his theory of soul. This is Dr. Ananya Barua, Associate Professor, Department of Philosophy, Hindu College. Now, who is Heraclitus? Heraclitus, the pre-Socratic philosopher from Ephesus, is a renowned thinker, typically known for his cryptic aphorisms and profound insights into the nature of existence, change, and the soul. One of his most striking statements about the soul is found in fragment B45, which is according to Diesel's Krantz, which is, quote, "You will not find the limits of the soul, even if you travel every road, so deep is its logos, reason," unquote. Heraclitus presents the structure of the soul as something which is inexhaustible and mysterious. He depicts the soul as fundamentally unfathomable. The metaphor of traveling every road and still failing to find its limits suggests that the soul cannot be fully grasped or measured. It implies that the inner dimension of human existence possesses infinite depth, comparable to the vastness of the cosmos. This depth points to the mystery of selfhood, where knowledge, emotion, desire, memory, and divine spark intermingle in ways that defy complete analysis. The soul's inexhaustibility and mystery, as conveyed especially through Heraclitus's fragment B45, invites a rich philosophical exploration. When Heraclitus says specifically these particular lines, quote, "You will not find the limits of the soul," he depicts by saying, rather revealing, two central claims. One is the inexhaustibility, which is the soul has no boundary or limit that can be fully explored or comprehended. The mysterious logos here refers to the structure or logos which is of such depth that it cannot be completely known. Now, the question that should ring to all of us here is, why is the soul inexhaustible? It is inexhaustible because it contains infinite dimensions. The human soul is not a flat or a singular thing. It encompasses thought, memory, imagination, desire, fear, intuition, and moral awareness. Each of these faculties can be infinitely complex. As one dives deeper into self-reflection or inner awareness, new layers emerge, suggesting there is always more to know and understand. The soul is like an ocean. No matter how far you swim, the depths continue. The soul is also in constant flux. Heraclitus believed that everything is in a state of becoming. The soul, too, is always changing. This makes it inexhaustible, not just in extent, but in movement. You cannot fully grasp it because by the time you do, it has changed. The soul thinks, feels, forgets, remembers, transforms. There is no final resting point or fixed identity. It reflects the cosmos. Heraclitus connects the soul to the cosmic logos. If the soul shares in the same principle that orders the universe and the universe is boundless, then the soul itself must be as deep as the cosmos. To explore the soul is to undertake a journey akin to exploring the universe, limitless and without end. So, why is the soul mysterious? The soul is mysterious because it holds contradictions. Heraclitus is famous for embracing paradox and contradiction. The soul is both rational and irrational, both divine and earthly, both unified and fragmented. This paradoxical nature makes the soul resist simple definition. Like fire, another of Heraclitus's key symbols, the soul burns but takes no fixed shape. Also, why is the soul mysterious? The second reason often given is because it is not fully accessible to consciousness. Much of what shapes human behavior, choices, and insights lies beneath conscious awareness. Later thinkers like Plato and Jung echo this when they talk about the unconscious or shadow self. Heraclitus anticipates this by pointing to the logos of the soul as being deep, a depth that cannot be reached even if you walk every path. It contains the divine spark. Heraclitus implies that the soul participates in divine reason, logos. If so, then it is not merely human, but contains something sacred or eternal. This connection to the divine makes it unknowable in its entirety because the human cannot fully grasp the divine. Philosophical implications is that ethically this teaches humility. No one can fully know themselves or others. Epistemologically, it suggests limits to rational inquiry. There are things we feel and intuit that we cannot explain. Existentially, it affirms the mystery of identity and consciousness. We are more than what we appear to be. Spiritually, it proposes that the soul is a site of divine mystery, something to be revered rather than mastered. Now, if we do a comparative thought with the Upanishads, we see that even in the Upanishads, the Atman is likewise, quote, smaller than the smallest and greater than the greatest, unquote, Chandogya Upanishad 3.14.3, which is, soul is eternal, mysterious, beyond comprehension. In Augustine, the soul is a, quote, vast and infinite interior, unquote, where even God dwells. In depth psychology, example Jung, the soul is the unconscious, a reservoir of symbols, dreams, archetypes. In conclusion, the soul is inexhaustible because it contains endless faculties and potentials. It reflects the ever-changing cosmos. It is bound up with the infinite logos. And it is mysterious because it holds paradoxes, escapes full self-knowledge, partakes of the divine. Heraclitus' insight remains a timeless philosophical call to enter the depths within, not to master the soul, but to continually engage with its mystery. Now, the other important thing about the soul is that the soul as logos infused. The Greek word logos here refers not just to reason, but to a principle of order, meaning and structure. The same logos that Heraclitus posits governs the cosmos. By saying that the soul has a deep logos, Heraclitus aligns the microcosm of the soul with the macrocosm of the universe. The soul then is not a separate, irrational entity, but one deeply intertwined with the rational, ordered flow of existence. This reflects a pantheistic or monotheistic understanding of being. The depth of the soul mirrors the depth of the cosmos. Thus, to know the soul is to begin to grasp the logic of the universe itself and vice versa. The idea that the soul is logos infused in Heraclitus's philosophy is a profound and foundational concept. To understand this, we must first grasp what logos means in his worldview and then how the soul participates in or reflects that logos. So, what is logos in Heraclitus? Heraclitus uses the term logos in a way that transcends any single modern translation. It can mean reason or rational principle, word or speech, structure, order, or cosmic law. The underlying unity in multiplicity, the truth or logic that governs all change. In fragment B1, Heraclitus says within quotes, although this logos is always so, people fail to understand it. This logos is not just a human faculty, but a universal ordering principle governing the cosmos and the soul alike. So then how is the soul logos infused? The soul shares in the cosmic order, and Heraclitus sees that the soul is not an isolated, self-contained monad, but as a microcosm of the cosmos. Just as the world is governed by logos, ever-changing yet ordered, so too the soul is structured by the same principle. The soul is a reflection of the cosmic law, and in knowing the logos of the soul, one begins to know the logos of the universe. This implies that rationality, intelligibility, and harmony are not external to us. They are in us, in the very fabric of our inner life. Logos has fire within. Heraclitus famously associates fire with both the soul and logos. The soul is of fire, DKB 11:8. All things are exchanged for fire and fire for all things, DKB 90. Here the fire is dynamic, transformative and ordered, just like logos. When Heraclitus says that the soul is fire, he implies that it is a living process of self-organizing reason. The soul does not just possess logos, it is animated by it. The soul is as capable of understanding logos. The human soul, according to Heraclitus, has the capacity for insight into the logos, unlike those who merely hear without understanding. In fragment B45, he says, "You would not find the limits of the soul, even if you traveled every road, so deep is its logos." Here, its logos suggests that the soul has an inward rational depth, a logos of its own that mirrors the cosmic logos. Thus, the logos of the soul is not fully known to us and thus inexhaustible, yet is our path to understanding the universal order. This makes the human soul a site of revelation. If we can come to know ourselves, we come closer to understanding the world. The ethical and philosophical implications, the logos infused soul implies that human beings are not alien to the universe but part of its deep rationality. To cultivate one's soul, dry soul is equivalent to wise soul in DKB 11:8, is to align with the logos, to live in harmony with nature and reason. Conversely, failing to understand the soul's logos leads to misalignment with truth, a disordered life. In comparative light, the Stoics, we see, who were influenced by Heraclitus, later developed the idea of logos as divine reason and teach that the rational soul in humans reflects the rational cosmos. In Indian Vedantic thought, a similar idea is found in Atman, equivalent to Brahman, the self contains the cosmic reality. So is in the case of in Christian theology, the Logos becomes incarnate in Christ, John 1:1, and the soul is seen as created in the image of this divine Logos. Now, if we see the PPT here as displayed, the aspect of the soul, ontological, the explanation provided is the soul is made up of the same principle, Logos, that orders the cosmos. Epistemological, we see that the soul can grasp Logos because it is structured by Logos. The ethical side of the soul is that it's living well means aligning one's inner Logos with the universal Logos. And last but not the least, the spiritual part of the soul, it means that the soul's depth and order is a pathway to truth and the divine. So, for Heraclitus, self-knowledge is the path to wisdom, but if the soul is infinitely deep, then true self-knowledge is a lifelong pursuit, always partial, never complete. This aligns with his critique of superficial understanding. Many hear without understanding. The depth of the soul calls for a kind of philosophical introspection where we attained not only to appearances but to the inner fire, the ever-changing and self-aware dimension of our being. Ethically, this implies humility, where we understand that human wisdom is limited in comparison to the Logos, but it also suggests a dynamic potential. Just as the cosmos is in constant flux, the soul too is capable of transformation through engagement with the Logos. The realization of the soul via self-knowledge, especially in Heraclitean philosophy, carries profound epistemological and ethical implications. Heraclitus does not separate knowledge from transformation. To know oneself is to align with the truth of being, and the realization is both a cognitive and moral achievement. So, under the epistemological implications then, what does it mean for knowledge and understanding? The soul is or as the sight of truth. Heraclitus implies that truth, which for him in Greek is aletheia, is not merely external or cosmic. It is embedded in the soul, which reflects the Logos, the rational order of the cosmos. This means self-knowledge is not subjective opinion. It is a way into the structure of reality itself. The deeper the universe or one understands the soul, the more one has access to universal truth. Knowledge is experiential and inward. Heraclitus critiques those who gathers much information but lacks wisdom. He says much learning does not teach understanding. Hence, true knowledge is not accumulation but insight. Insight arises from an inner turning, a form of nothation or know thyself, which brings one into resonance with the Logos. Knowledge has no finality. Given that the soul is deep and inexhaustible, self-knowledge is an open-ended journey, never fully complete. A recognition that the truth of the soul is dynamic like fire or a river, changing yet intelligible. Heraclitus also hints about the unity of knowing and being vis-a-vis the soul, and he talks about the pre-Platonic unity of epistemology and ontology, which is to truly know is to be aligned with being. This anticipates later philosophers, Plotinus or Vedanta, where the knower, the known, and knowledge are unified in the realization of the self. So the further question then is what does it mean for how we should live? That is, the soul, for the soul, it is living in according with the logos. Ethically, the realization of the soul via self-knowledge means one lives in harmony with nature and reason. The soul becomes dry, light, and wise, shedding excess and aligning with natural flow of the cosmos. This is similar to what later Stoics call living according to nature. Wisdom as self-transformation is the other way how one should live. Knowing that the soul is not just theoretical, it is practical, it transforms one's desires, choices, and values. It enables inner balance akin to Heraclitus' vision of tension and harmony of opposites. A person who has realized the soul does not act out of passion or ignorance, but from a place of measured, insightful awareness. Ethical humility. The inexhaustibility of the soul also implies we must act with modesty and humility, recognizing that we never fully know ourselves or others. Ethical living involves ongoing reflection and openness to learning. The soul as the source of moral compass. For Heraclitus, ethics is not imposed externally as in laws, but comes from the soul's own alignment with logos. If the soul is attuned to the deeper order, moral action follows naturally. This anticipates the idea of inner consciousness or conscience, or what in Indian thought might be called dharma, realized inwardly. So, again in the PPT displayed here, the dimension of epistemological implication is that the soul is a source of true knowledge. Self-knowledge grants access to universal order. Knowledge is dynamic, inward and experiential. There is no final mastery. The soul remains inexhaustible. Ethical, we know the implication is that realizing the soul leads to ethical transformation. A wise soul lives in harmony with nature and change. Ethics is rooted in inner awareness, not external rules. So in comparative light, in Socrates, when he says an unexamined life is not worth living, it is knowing oneself is the basis of ethics. In Vedanta, realizing that Atman leads to liberation and righteous living, dharma. In Buddhism, insights into the self's impermanence or anatta leads to right action or sila. Soul as fire and becoming. Elsewhere, Heraclitus compares the soul to fire, an element he identifies with transformation and change. A dry soul, he says, is wisest and best, possibly suggesting a soul that has been purified or tempered by fire, free from excess and passion. Thus, the depth of the soul is not static, it is active, moving, becoming, reflecting the broader Heraclitean doctrine of flux or panthère. In summary, Heraclitus' notion of the depth of the soul signifies its infinite and unknowable nature, its participation in the logos, the rational structure of the cosmos, the ethical call to know oneself through philosophical reflection, its dynamic, fiery, and transformative quality. The comparison of the soul to fire and becoming in Heraclitus' philosophy is thus not a superficial metaphor, but a profound ontological and symbolic expression of how Heraclitus understood the nature of the soul, reality, and identity. Fire for Heraclitus is not merely a physical element, it is a principle of transformation, energy, and continuity in change. In likening the soul to fire, Heraclitus reveals his metaphysics of flux and embeds the soul with this ever unfolding process of becoming. We will be discussing more in our next lecture. Thank you so much.